Here they are then, the 7 this week, and we will start with number of runners you should be allowed in a Grand National. Should there be a restriction on any trainer or owner's number of runners?
I don't think there should be, personally. I've criticised Michael O'Leary in the past for having a massive field in either the Scottish or the Irish a couple of years ago in the Mirror. But if you've got those horses and they've got those ratings, well, your horses should be able to run. I don't like it personally. I mean, I think any sport is enhanced by a greater number of participants. You know, over the years, the fact that there are so many sons of Galileo and Sadler's Wells in County Tipperary and not spread around Newmarket has worked to the detriment of the Derby and flat racing in general. But if they're your horses, they've got those ratings. I just can't see how one can possibly police this. You can with trainers, but with owners, you'd say, well, David Yates, you cannot have 10 runners in the Grand National. I'd just give 2 to Nick Luck. And they'll say, well, they're not mine, they're Nick Luck's. So, for me, as I say, I don't like it, but I wouldn't put a law in to change it.
Daryl, would you be agreeing with that?
No, look, it's. I think if an owner has got that sort of, firepower, and at the end of the day, these horses can only run in certain races because of their handicap or because of their ability. I mean, if an owner, how can you spread him out then? I mean, if he's got the quality and he wants to run him, I think you've got to let him run him.
The thing is, if he's got 39 other horses he can run in next year's race, then maybe Tiger Roll will.
I mean, as Daryl says, that there's only a certain number of opportunities, isn't there? And if
it's not the horse's fault who he's owned by. The horse doesn't know who he's owned by.
And the Grand National being the Grand National, you can't say, like, oh, well, let's not run that, he's no chance, he's a 50-to-1 shot. Well, 50-to-1 shots have won the race before. So, as I say, it'd be great if you had 40 different trainers, 40 different owners, but we know that the modern landscape isn't like that.
And Tiger Roll was the shortest priced winner of the Grand National, I think, since 1911.
1919, I think.
1919, was it?
Poethlin at 11-to-4.
Oh, OK. I was getting that wrong all of yesterday, so I'm glad you've...
Well, that's what's in the Sunday Mirror. It doesn't mean it's right.
This was in the Sunday Mirror. Maybe a different version. The Daily Mirror's racing correspondent is much better than the one in the Sunday Mirror. Sales, 440 grand somebody paid in the sale the other day, but the 2 headlines out of the sale at Cheltenham were the 2 horses that ran in the National, Outlander and Don Polly, who ran for different trainers.
Yeah, I mean, there are positives about this. It obviously it's a newsworthy event, isn't it? The sale, and obviously the fact that Don Polly and Outlander were sold and were going to run in the National, obviously was covered by all of us because Darren Yates, who had no luck with Black Lion, then stepped in.
No relation.
No, sadly not. No, I wish he was my old man, but sadly, I'm probably older than him anyway. It was a good news story, but of course I do have a little bit of a problem for the one race that so many people in the nation look at, that there are 2 runners, in this case Phil Kirby and Richard Spencer, who haven't had any time to train the horses. For me, that's a bit of a weird thing.
And Outlander actually ran pretty well, didn't he? Finished 9th.
Yeah, he ran an absolute belter, didn't he? But like I say, it is a bit weird, isn't it? A bit strange. They've gone to different. They've never actually been in the yards. The horses have come over from Ireland. They've probably stayed at Aintree, up until the race, and they'll go home to their respective trainers, after the race yesterday. So it's a little bit weird. But I suppose if someone's paid that sort of money to have a Grand National runner, well, I suppose if they got that money, why not?
There was quite a lot of chippiness on social media about Darren Yates shelling out the money for...
Yeah, but social media...
I don't really understand that. If he wants to buy a horse to run in the Grand National, well, why not?
If he's got the money. But social media is the worst thing to happen to the human race in 200 years. I like Twitter. I've got a Facebook account that I very rarely use, but it's just full of people chirruping and chipping away and bitching away. Just let them get on with it.
At Luck on Sunday, if you want to comment on that. Welfare and generally how it was managed during the course of the week at Aintree, been very much in the news of late here and across the pond as well. Daryl, from your point of view, just watching on from riding in the races, how would you assess the efforts over the 3 days?
I think first class. I think they've done a great job. You know, you see all the hosing down areas. You got so many people out on the track. You know, the vets. You know, the jockeys, the doctors, the medical staff. Everything is. It's really lifting up a gear, and you know, the welfare for these horses is very, very good. I mean, you got to look at these horses, like when they're back they get 5-star treatments. The grooms that look after them every day of the week. These horses are very, very well looked after. And whenever they come to the races, the race courses look after them very, very well. And I thought they handled themselves very, very well all week.
And so, from your point of view, logistically, everything worked right. You had no issues.
No issues whatsoever. No, I think it was first class.
Dave, there was one fatality in the Grand National up for review, and the first was brought down. Dare I say it, an incident that could have happened any time in any race. The BHA have asked me to clarify, because there have been one or two reports doing the rounds. I'm not sure where, because I haven't seen them, that there might be an official review into the race. The BHA have stressed that is absolutely not the case, that they always look at every race and, you know, try and think how things can always be made better on a constant basis. But there is no specific plan to have any kind of review off the back of that. So that is a non-story. If you've read it, it's wrong.
Yeah, it's the first national fatality, I think, since 2012.
Yes, that's correct.
Obviously, a lot of modifications have been made in that time. You know, it is a fact that when you race, you know, in any sport there are injuries, and in horse racing, when you are racing horses at full tilt on the flat or over obstacles, there will be injuries and there will be fatalities. It's very sad, but we all participate in the sport believing that the risk management is fair.
And risk management and management of welfare and how that brief is dealt with will be very much in the in-tray of Anne-Marie Phelps, who is the incoming chair of the British Horse Racing Authority, having occupied a similar position at British Rowing and having been an international athlete in her own right, a rower in her own right, Anne-Marie Phelps, a CBE.
Yes. What do we want from the new incumbent? Well, I think for myself, I would like a front foot, confident, ethical defence of horse racing, because I think that over the last few months the BHA has been more inclined to not to do that, and I think that it needs, as I say, we all sit here and we believe that it's a question that James Willoughby often asks, and that is racing fair on the horse? I ask, is the life of the average thoroughbred worth living? And I think they're essentially about the same question. I think that it's incumbent and it's absolutely vital at this point that the BHA has a strong, confident, ethical defence of essentially horse racing's welfare record, because I think it's something that we can defend, that we can be proud of. And I think it's very, very, you know, viewers know that I've bored them about the use of the whip in horse racing many times before. And I think that it's absolutely vital that is the primary motive of the incoming chairman. You get a fair bit of chuntering if somebody comes in from outside racing. Oh, what are they going to know about racing? I think in this instance, it's quite significant that the new incumbent has a pretty decent track record, and not only that, offers a degree of neutrality in what's been a fairly febrile environment between horsemen and racecourses of late. I think someone who doesn't represent either of those parties is probably the right. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that Anne-Marie Phelps has made her name in another sport. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily at all.
Let us talk about Fran Berry, whose retirement has been announced officially at the beginning of last week. I don't think it came as a huge surprise on medical grounds, and he has seamlessly transitioned to being a brilliant pundit on racing TV yesterday at Leopardstown, Daryl.
Yeah, obviously I didn't get to listen to him yesterday, obviously with Aintree being on, but the reports that I've heard, you know, he's been very, very good. I mean, look, he's obviously an ambassador with Sky Bet like myself, and I've got to know him well since he come over from Ireland. Hugely talented rider, lovely guy, a gentleman to be around, and you know, I'm sure his transition to television is going to be a massive, massive plus to racing TV. And of course, experience of winning at the Cheltenham Festival and all those flat horses. So it's an unusual but very successful career. He's a super rider. Always has been. You know, his balance on top of horses was exceptional, and a lot of horses they ran really, really well for him. And look, it's really sad that he's had to retire on medical grounds and stuff like that. But as he said, look, the injury could have been a lot worse. He was lucky. You know, falling on the all-weather it's not a nice feeling. I mean, we obviously jump and we got schooling strips on the all-weather, and when horses fall on that, you know, at schooling pace it's not nice. Never mind doing 35, 40, whatever miles an hour they're doing. So, you know, he was lucky, but a super talent. He'll be missed around here, and I know I'll miss him being part of the Sky Bet ambassadors. I'll miss him.
And you people clearly enjoy his company.
Oh, I loved his. You know, I got to meet him quite a few times doing little bits and pieces with Sky Bet and stuff like that, and I've always had great fun with him whenever I've seen him. Yeah.
And you talk about injuries to jockeys, and I think this will just seamlessly segue into our next talking point as the clock runs out on this one, because I want to just stay with you on this. Barry Geraghty broke his tibia and his fibula in a fall at Aintree from Peregrine Run in the Topham Chase. Missed the Grade 1 on Champ, missed the run on Annabelle Fly in the Grand National. And immediately he's done that, people are saying, right, is he going to call it a day? Is he going to quit? So immediately he said, I'm back in
3 months or yeah.
It's an interesting psychology for jockeys when they get to a certain point in their career and get a nasty injury, isn't it? Because everyone's essentially finishing them off. Yeah,
exactly. But, I mean, Barry's a super rider. Very, very strong, and you know, I've no doubt about it. He's only got one thing on his mind, and you know, that's getting back ASAP. Obviously, he's going to be unlucky. He's going to miss, you know, Punchestown and Fairyhouse, which are massive meetings over there, and he's going to miss the end of Sandown the last day over here as well. But you know, knowing Barry, I mean, he's only got one thing in his mind, and he's wanting to get back ASAP.
But it's interesting, the reaction of senior riders when they get injured. We've seen it with Ruby a few times when he's had a leg break. Normally, it's I'm going to be back straight away. They'll give you a target for their return.
Yeah, I suppose mentally that's something that sportsmen have to do, isn't it? Because you know, if you sit back and say, well, I don't know, let's see, you know, how things go, that's not the mental makeup of someone who prospers in a sporting environment. I mean, I think, you know, it's an understandable question in terms of Barry Geraghty's injury. He's 39 years old, and it's a sad fact that when you get into your late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, these physical problems just take longer, the body takes longer to recover. So I understand it. I equally understand the fact that he's setting himself a target to be back, and that he will be back. He's got one of the best jobs in racing, so why wouldn't he want that job for as long as he possibly can have it? With Fran Berry, I would like to say that he was in my dealings with him as a jockey, was an unfailingly pleasant guy to deal with, and I'm sorry that his career in the saddle is finished, but I'm glad that he'll be gracing our screens in the future.
And he will be on Luck on Sunday a week from now. Fran Berry, so looking forward to welcoming him to the show. Festivals, finally, and the proximity between Cheltenham and Aintree. I mean, they weren't cheek by jowl, but there was a week less between them than there was last year, Daryl. Easter gets in the way, that's the problem. Easter essentially affects where everything is. Is there anything we can do? Can we just say, right, the Grand National's going to be on the second Saturday in April, first Saturday in April, and doesn't matter whether it's Easter or not, or I don't know.
Well, that's the problem is you've got with the public and Easter holidays and everything. I mean, it's ideally you'd like a bigger gap, because obviously you've seen at Aintree over the weekend, some of the real stars that Cheltenham, they've underperformed at Aintree and stuff like that. And Cheltenham, you know, it takes an awful lot out of horses. I mean, horses are geared up for that one big day at Cheltenham Festival, and then, you know, they go to the high, they win, they go through the high, you know, everything, and then they've got to come down again, and then the trainer's got to refreshen them up and regroup them up for 3 weeks' time for Aintree. It's not an easy task, it really isn't. And you know, if you had a little bit longer in between, and it would most definitely help the Aintree horses. But unfortunately, what can you do about it?
March the 12th to April the 4th is 23 days by my mathematics. It's obviously an unsatisfactory situation where champions, where if they underperform, that you're not just saying, well, he wasn't good enough, but you're saying, well, he was feeling his
left
effects.
the race.
But now, more than ever, we've got the celebration meeting at Sandown that's got more sort of bang to its buck. Obviously Punchestown as well. We've got those sort of 3.5 festivals, makes life much more difficult. And also the ability of the athlete to bounce back from stern tests like that. It's not an alien concept, is it? The American Triple Crown, isn't it 6 weeks?
That's what makes it so creditable when a horse can do it.
From the Kentucky Derby to the Belmont, isn't it?
2 weeks. It's 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
It's
there you
2
go.
weeks to the Derby to the Preakness and 3 weeks.
And that's the very essence of that test, isn't it? It's presumably whether a horse can stay 10 and 12 and do it in 5-6 weeks.
Those were this week's talking points.